Well, I just sat through the ABC Evening News, and the first 5 minutes was spent discussing the ocean heat wave off the Florida Keys that is bleaching the coral, and we are in for an economic and ecological disaster over global warming. It's the most ridiculous first 5 minutes of their opening dialogue that I've ever had to watch. It was very painful because they never tell you the facts. So here are some facts. To begin with, around coral reef areas throughout the globe, they have not monitored temperature since the 1980s. There's no long-term temperature data around coral reef areas. So in 1985, they began monitoring the SST, which is the sea surface temperature, via satellite, and that just gets the top layer, right? Number two, with buoys, they did not install those until 1988. So those are the only two historical records that they have to go by. So they have no idea how warm it was in the 1930s or any period before the 1980s. That's number one. Okay, number two, the Florida Keys is a very shallow area. The average ocean temperature, and this is based on the past 7 years, what the average has been during the month of July and August, is between 82 and 93 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, I checked those temperature reportings that come from those stations, and today it's 91 degrees, and the forecast is downward. So how are they getting these 95 and 97 degree readings? Well, that's easy. What I suspect, these are climatologists in boats, and they're just going to random areas throughout the Keys, and they're dropping a sensor, a temperature gauge, and they're coming up with these higher temperatures. Well, that's not consistent, and it's not part of the official record, I hope. They really haven't explained what sites are reporting those temperatures. So the only thing I can go off of is what the historical and what the buoy today is reporting, right? So I can't speak to how they're getting these higher temperatures, but they must be in shallower areas where the ocean depth is very shallow. And of course, you're going to have a higher temperature, right? The second part focused on bleaching. And it's very interesting about the bleaching of coral. Bleaching of coral does not kill the coral. Now, about 10 years ago or so, maybe a little longer, they would blame ocean acidification. And that is when CO2 is absorbed into the ocean, and it gains a hydrogen atom, and it turns into a carbonic acid. And they blame that on killing coral reefs. Well, they've backtracked from that because they find that's not the case. And now they focus on temperature extremes. So you can have very hot weather that will bleach coral and very cold weather that will bleach coral. And it's probably, so coral has a temperate zone that it prefers, right? And it probably is a hibernation of coral. But bleached coral does recover. And bleaching is a bad term. It's not, we see it's white. Oh, it's bleach. It's chlorine. Well, no, it's not. It's got nothing to do with that. So it's more of a dormant stage for coral. And it's caused by many factors, by the ecology of the coral reef, the fish that feed off the coral and things like that. If you overfish a coral reef, it will bleach the coral. So there are different things in play here, right? But it's about propaganda, right? They're never going to come out and tell you the full truth. So what are we seeing, and should we be concerned? No, there's not enough long-term data to determine if this is really a concern or not. Now, if you read some of the articles out today, they forecast by 2040, coral bleaching is going to be an annual event. Right now, it's associated with these heat waves, right? And there have been 3 within the past 35 years. This being one of them, the previous one being no, I'm sorry, 2015 and then 1997, I believe. So they've had 3 areas where ocean temperatures registered higher, right? But we don't know if that's normal or not. Now, we do know that the Earth is going through an interglacial warming period. Ocean waters are getting a little warmer, right? But the fear that they put into it is only intended to get you into an electric vehicle. Because trust me, they're going to keep the oil for the elites. They're still going to fly around the world in their jets. And the militaries are still going to fuel their tanks. So this has got nothing to do with them. It's got everything to do with you. And how much should you be paying for energy, right? You can't get a loan in Africa to build for anything related to fossil fuels. If you want to build a power plant that's fossil fuels, no, can't do it. It's got to be solar, right? So these policies worldwide has a huge economic impact. And it's something to think about, you know. How much are you willing to pay for your electricity? Right? This is the Cold War sailor, out.